70 years ago today, the United States Marines began one of the most iconic battles of World War II.
For one Park County resident, the battle was more than just pictures on a screen. They were moments from his life. News 10's Gary Bryan has his story.
In the late 1930s, Leighton Wilhite was just like any other kid growing up in Park County.
I grew up on a dairy farm right north on 41 here. I started work at Turkey Run when I was 15 years old. I lied about my age because they couldn't hire me unless I was 16.
Leighton and his family soon moved from Bloomingdale to Montezuma. It was there in October of 1943 that everything changed.
And when I was a senior in high school, I got a draft notice, went to Indianapolis, and 2 days later I was on the train to San Diego, California.
Drafted into the Marines, Leighton's high marks in boot camp got him into a tank.
Went to tank school, and it was the drivers we were taking in the driver's lesson. Lieutenant, I heard him say to the sergeant there, "This is a farm boy, I'm sure he has driven a lot." And I'm sure what he meant was a tractor. What I had driven was teams of horses, not a tank or not anything else.
The farm boy from Park County would soon cross paths with history.
In January of 1945, we were notified to load up that we're going into combat and said we're going to a little island called Iwo Jima. The first wave went in at 0900, and with the tanks we were to go in at 10 o'clock. But after the second wave went in, word came out, get the tanks in here, they're needed.
Leighton and his fellow Marines were told that the force at Iwo Jima was that of 2,000 week-old men and young boys. However, they arrived to a force of over 22,000 war-hardened Japanese soldiers.
Did it scare me? Absolutely, it scared me. But the infantry couldn't move unless we were on the front.
After joining up with the 28th Marines, Leighton's company was tasked with taking Mount Suribachi.
They told us stop firing into the mountain because we're going to send some boys up. So they took the 40 men from Easy Company and sent them up the west side of the hill. And when they got to the top, they raised the flag.
Although the public would see it as a victory over the Japanese army, the raising of the American flag on Mount Suribachi was only the fourth day of a grueling 28-day campaign. On one of those trying days, Leighton's crew encountered a suicide bomber.
I said, Claude, take him down. And he did. I said something to my lieutenant. I said, Dusty, that's the smallest Japanese I've ever seen. He said, we think it was a schoolboy. They have 69 schoolboys here teaching them warfare. They're 14 years old, and we think it was one of them.
As the campaign dragged on, the rations meant for 2 days ran out, leaving the Marines without food. But on the 27th day, on the tiny island of Iwo Jima, Leighton and the Marines finally saw a glimmer of hope.
When I went up the front lines and I could look over the bank and see the ocean, and I could see our boys walking around.
The battle was over, and before long, Leighton had enough points to head home.
Home had changed so much. My classmates were all gone, and I didn't know anyone.
Home had changed, but so had Leighton.
I've often said, from the Halls of Montezuma to the shores of Iwo Jima.
In Park County, with photojournalist David Essex, Gary Bryan, News 10.
For the full interview with Leighton Wilhite and to take a look at our Halls of Montezuma photo gallery, head to WTHI-TV.com and look for this story.
And we thank him for his service.